So, welcome back, kind of, to Mount and Blade 2 Bannerlord. At least this is kind of a bit of a preamble towards something that will hopefully evolve into something wonderful in the future, because of course, Bannerlord as it stands is obviously in an early access state, and there are bits and pieces of it that will obviously improve as time goes along, but this is somewhat inevitable for a Bannerlord title. But one of the main draws of Bannerlord as a concept for me at the moment is the fact that it is, based on the time that I've spent with it already, a pretty fantastic base, to be honest with you, to build from and to make a game, or make mods of the game, that could be truly something special. And a big part of this is the fact that Bannerlord is going to have a bit more of an active modding scene than even Warband had, and Warband, to be fair, had a fairly active modding scene all of its own. But of course, the main thing that I'm going to be talking about here is Kingdoms of ARDA, which I have already noticed a couple of comments in the comment section of the couple of Bannerlord videos I've done already, albeit they're not particularly popular in comparison to the Third Age stuff that I do. But this is, of course, the Lord of the Rings mod. People have been sort of already commenting that a Lord of the Rings mod for Bannerlord would be terrific, and I agree. Bannerlord, as it stands, is pretty much tailor-made for something like a Lord of the Rings mod, or even a Game of Thrones mod, albeit the popularity and the speed at which something like that would be developed is probably going to be slightly lesser than the variants that appeared for Warband, because the show is over and it didn't end particularly well, so there is that to consider as well. But Lord of the Rings, as a concept, is never really going to go out of fashion, and Bannerlord is, like I said, pretty much tailor-made for a Lord of the Rings mod, so I have really high hopes for the Kingdoms of ARDA, and this, more than anything, is just a little preamble and a little showcase of some of the stills that have already been made, because work on this mod started before Bannerlord ever released, so clearly there was a real appetite to get this underway beforehand. So what I'm talking about, of course, is the sort of construction of models and so on and so forth. Obviously, now that the game is out, they can start to have a little look at what they can do with regards to that. The mod tools are not out yet, though, so real swift progress is unlikely to actually happen until that is the case. But yeah, I mean, overall, a Lord of the Rings mod for Bannerlord sounds like something that would be fairly ideal, of course. And just cycling through all of the stills that I've had going in the background here, obviously, I'm not going to be talking about each one of them in any great detail because they are what they are. But there's a lot of familiar faces around here. Obviously, there's the mounted Rohirrim Royal Guard, there's the Rangers of Athelion, there's the Lorinand Archers, there's the Axemen of Lasarnak, the Erebor Heavy Infantry, the Olag High, the Elder Enway, at least the armour of them, and obviously, all of these things are incredibly familiar to anyone who is involved in the Third Age community, regardless of which submod you're truly involved with. And just in general, it sounds almost too good to be true, Kingdoms of ARDA. I mean, obviously, one of the things that we will have to bear in mind is the fact that, in all likelihood, it's going to take a really long time for the Kingdoms of ARDA to actually be out and in a finished state. I mean, obviously, the mod tools are not even released yet. All of these models are all well and good, but building a game around the aesthetics and the sort of the models that you've made does take a fair amount of time. Obviously, they've got to make the map, the intricacies of transferring the Mount and Blade mechanics over into a Lord of the Rings setting. That's something that never really happened for Warband. I mean, with the increased sort of presence around Bannerlord, I have a little bit more hope that the Kingdoms of ARDA will one day be in sort of like the fully working form. But yeah, I mean, obviously this is something that I would really, really like to see in an advanced stage of development. But I'm under no illusions about the fact that it's probably going to take us quite a while before we can get there. But this is something which has got an awful lot of potential. And just having a look through some of the unit models as well, I mean, you can obviously see that just based on the work that was already done prior to the release of the game itself, you can tell that the people behind this are serious about making this work. I mean, some of this looks like a very high quality work indeed. Obviously, all of it, the Lord of the Rings style in general is obviously very well defined, but there's some things which are obviously very familiar in the form of sort of the Lothlorien armour, the Olag High armour, even stuff like the Swan Knights as well are something which is obviously very familiar to everyone who's played Third Age. So, yeah, I mean, for all of you who are sort of in the comments section, or for anyone who is curious about the Mount and Blade scene and obviously the mods that would be spawned from it, this would be the one that, if I had to choose obviously one setting, one mod, one large scale mod in general, that I would hope saw itself through to completion in Bannerlord, it would obviously be this one, because obviously Lord of the Rings is one of the things, the thing that I've grown my channel around on YouTube, and not only for that reason as well, but I just feel as though in general it's perfect. It's the ideal fit for something like this. Obviously, with how Mount & Blade's mechanics works, obviously, you know, mechanically the game, or at least performance-wise, the game will continue to improve based on the actual dev side of things. So hopefully that won't continue to be an issue moving into the future. But obviously it's ideal. You obviously have the cavalry, and obviously just the idea of a large-scale Minas Tirith siege with sort of players playing as the Rohirrim waiting to pounce as the Gondorians desperately try to stop the orcs as they sort of mount their siege towers and get them to the walls, start battering down the gates of Minas Tirith as well. It's a very appealing concept indeed. And so this is one thing to keep one eye on, I think. I mean, obviously there's nothing I can show that's actually working in the game at the moment. It's really just sort of stills and sort of concepts, and also actual models that have been made by the developers. I don't know who the developers are of this, to be brutally honest. This is just something which has come into my attention ever since it was sort of conceptualized, but I didn't really want to mention it because I wasn't really sure about how Bannerlord would be for me. I mean, I'm enjoying Bannerlord a great deal, but of course this is the thing that I have one eye on at all times at this point, because, like I said, I've said it several times already in this video, but the potential is massive here, and I really do hope that as the mod tools are released for the game, I do hope that we start to see progress on something like this, because Bannerlord as a base for mods like this is something which I feel as though it could turn Bannerlord into a truly, truly fantastic game. And with the release of the mod tools, I feel as though it could really take off. I mean, obviously we've seen what mods can do to the longevity of a game, and also to the sheer variety of a game with something like Skyrim. And I feel as though Mount & Blade, honestly, with its complete freedom as a sandbox, has probably got even more potential than something like that, because the freedom is almost limitless, and the idea of not only this Lord of the Rings mod, but even other large-scale projects, whether it be sort of a real-life sort of mod, in comparison to Calradia, maybe to transfer it into the real world, the real Migration era or Dark Age, or even something like Antiquity or the Medieval era, or of course other fantasy settings. I've already mentioned Game of Thrones, with the potential expansion on the political side of things for Mount & Blade 2 Bannerlord. You know, something like Game of Thrones also could be absolutely fantastic, alongside obviously the likes of Lord of the Rings with the large-scale battles. I mean, the mind really does start racing at the potential of this game, and it's one of the reasons why I really do hope that as the modding scene becomes more active for Mount & Blade 2, I really do hope that some of these concepts that are sort of slightly larger and more difficult to pull off do start to gain traction, because it's something which could really turn this game from being merely sort of very good and very fun to one of the all-time greats for me. And so yeah, that's really all I had to say. All of the stills that have been running in the background have obviously been continuously moving along, and I hope they've whetted your appetite somewhat for a little bit of Kingdoms of ARDA in the not in the near future by any means. Obviously it will be something to look for further afield, but just to make people aware of this, because I feel as though most of, at least my audience, is more focused around sort of the Total War scene, and probably rightly so, because it's been the vast majority of my channel ever since its conception, really. But obviously this would appear to be the sort of thing which many people could get very, very excited for, and there's good reason for that, because, like I said, I feel as though this could be something truly special as long as it gains enough momentum going into its development. So yeah, that was just a little ramble, a little look as well at some of the things that the developers from the Kingdoms of ARDA have made. And honestly, I don't think that any of the developers would know who I am, because I don't think my channel is necessarily big enough to actually gain me any sort of notoriety outside of the Third Age scene that I have comfortably nestled myself inside. But on the off chance that one of them does know who I am and is watching this video, I wish you all the best, because, like I said, I feel as though if you can pull this off, it could turn into something truly, truly special. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this. It wasn't particularly informative, it was me really just rambling about something that I really hope gains traction as time goes along, and I hope you'll join me for whatever is next.